hear about people that regret so much of what they've done in the past, but I mean, there's no point wasting time or energy into that because there's nothing that you can do about it. Everyone's made mistakes doing something, and you've just got to learn from it and move on.
Yeah. Hello, and welcome back or welcome to Chairlift Chatss the Podcast, hosted by us, your favourite brother and sister duo. My name is Chelsea.
And I'm James Widdicombe. Great to be here for another podcast. Today, Chels, we are talking about 3 things to stop doing for a better life, a better experience.
3 things.
Whatever it might be. So 3 things. Those 3 things are regretting the past, stop worrying about the future, which I get is hard, and stop looking for happiness in other people.
Yeah, right.
And so we've broken that down, and we're going to unpack that today. So 3 things to stop doing for a better life. I've started with nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
So in terms of regretting the past, there's nothing you can do about it.
The past is past.
The past is past. Present is present. Future is future. So
you're sounding like a real yogi meditation teacher.
Oh,
James.
no, I just think
be in the present moment.
I just think,
which I think is great.
Yeah, I just think you hear about people that regret so much of what they've done in the past, but I mean, there's no point wasting time or energy into that because there's nothing that you can do about it. Everyone's made mistakes doing something, and you've just got to learn from it and move on.
Yeah. Don't be so hard on yourself about things because no one's alone in that feeling. I think everyone feels that way at some point. For me, I'll be lying in bed at night and I'm about to fall asleep, and then the overthinking mind starts to happen, and I start thinking of things that are happening tomorrow or that I did today or literally happened back in high school or something like that. And it really takes a lot to kind of train your brain to be, it's okay. The past is in the past. That sounds like a quote from The Lion King or something, but the past is the past. And the future is the future. And let tomorrow be what tomorrow will be. And try to look at it in terms of gratitude, being grateful for it. It's like a beautiful sunshine day at the snow. You're not then going to be thinking about what if tomorrow is a really windy day. You're just in the present moment on that mountain. You know, you're having those chairlift chats, you're on the chairlift looking out at the beautiful resort around you, and you are in the moment. And I think that's why we're so drawn to skiing and snowboarding, is because it really does pull you into that moment. And you might have regrets. You might regret going down that certain path on the mountain, but you learn that next time you do that run, not to go down that way.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I've noticed you put in here the quote of the week, which actually aligns with the first point. I'll read it out here. So this is the quote of the week. The biggest regret of your life won't be what you did, it'll be what you didn't do.
Ooh,
by Lee Bryce.
How good is that? Lee Bryce, country singer.
I think that's a great quote because I think everyone can relate with that in some way. You ask old people or middle-aged people and they all say the same thing every time you speak to them. It's like, oh man, I wish I bought that house 10, 20 years ago because now it'd be worth bloody $50 million. Or I wish I bought this. I wish I bought that. I wish I invested in this. Start now.
Yeah.
Start now. Stop regretting what you didn't do and start thinking about what you can do. I think that's a really good quote because it's really the only thing you can do. You can't look back, you can't go back, so you may as well fix what you can do now.
Yeah, like they say, the best time to invest was 10 years ago, but the second best time is today.
It's right now.
Right now.
10 years ago, or probably
more,
15 years ago, for example, the world was so different in terms of like now. 15 years ago, digital assets didn't exist. So there's such things like cryptocurrencies now. There's always something new coming in. And you know what? In 15 years' time, there'll be something else that's new as well. So I think you've just got to adapt to the times and be innovative.
Keep moving forward, always. Always be learning.
That's right. Just keep looking forward and don't regret the decisions of what you've done. Just keep pushing on and just hope along the way you make a couple of good decisions, and you never know, it might set you up for life.
Yeah, because you know what? Even I think sometimes decision making can be really hard for people. It's like, do I take this road or this road? And sometimes it can be an important decision, other times not. But I think the most important thing is to decide and just go with it. You might not always make the right decision, but it is still what was right for that moment.
It's funny here that quote does say, the biggest regret of your life won't be what you did, it'll be what you didn't do. I actually have regret of what I did as well.
Okay.
And that was smashing my face in on the lake. I'm still regretting that because I did do it, and sometimes I've got a habit of just jumping in and just doing stupid stuff. But again, do you regret all of it? I wouldn't say so, because you know what? I found the best dentist in the world. So can you there's pros and cons to it all. So, okay, we're going to move on to the next point now. Stop worrying about the future.
Stop worrying about the future.
What does that mean to you? What does that label to you when you think of stop worrying about the future? For me, everyone worries in their own way, and I think it's important to worry about the future in some way, just a little bit, by the means of taking care of yourself and your body. Because if you just don't give a crap about that, you'll die early. So let's be real. So you gotta worry a little bit. But what does it mean for you? What do you worry about?
I worry about forgetting to set my alarm and sleeping in.
Oh gosh, okay.
That's like a little worry. I worry about some drivers on the road. Like this bus driver the other day, that was a worry, and that was kind of out of my control as well. So I just had to be like, okay, here we go, be in the moment.
This is the last quarter of the year.
Yeah.
And school kids are doing their HSC.
Oh.
Right? Speaking of bus drivers, it got me thinking about school kids. And they're all worrying about their HSC.
Yeah.
Now, there's nothing to worry about because they've been studying for the last 10 years, some of them for hours on end, and they all worry about the future. I've got a cool point here. Psychologists have said 85% of what people worry about on a daily basis will not happen. 85%.
Wow.
Can you think about how mentally draining that would be for most people out there that worry about things? 85% of it's not even going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, like the mind goes to the worst case scenario. I think it's from like when our brains were like, in caveman times where your body went into flight or fight or freeze all the time. And I think, there's good stress and there's bad stress. Like good stress is like, if a car stops in front of you and you need to brake, your body goes into that stress mode and knows how to react. But I think something like studying for school isn't the end of the world. Like you are not going to physically die if you don't do so well on the exam. There is, I think, if anything, take everything as a lesson and as an opportunity. And yeah, things aren't always going to go your way. And if they do, then something will eventually happen and you'll really struggle. So I think I feel quite lucky when I was in year 12 is because I have you and our older brother Luke, who I had to look up to. And I saw...
Well, we'd already done it.
You'd already done it. And I saw how well you were doing with your life and how there was so much more to life than school. And so by worrying about the future constantly, worrying about your marks or worrying what you're going to do, it actually doesn't matter what you do, as long as you do something. And you will find your path and you will find yourself. And, who would have thought that when we were in high school that we would have a podcast together?
Well, there you go.
So,
exactly.
Did we worry about that in the past? No, we're enjoying it in the present, and maybe we will continue to get to do it in the future.
And I think a good point to mention there as well is the problems that you may face, look at it as a positive and the potential to learn from the problems that are in front of you.
Yeah.
I've slowly started to work that out, that, okay, if there is going to be something quite catastrophic in the workplace or for a student, it might be the HSC or whatever it is, learn from the mistake or the problem that's in front of you and do the best you can to try and solve that issue there and then on the spot. And you never know, like whatever happens in that situation, you've just got to go, okay, this is how I did it. This is what I could have done better. And the next time that something like that comes up, you go, okay, perfect. This is how I can act on it this time. That's going to improve that situation 100 times better. And these kids that are going through the HSC right now are thinking it's all doom and gloom, because this is what the school system does. They put the pressure on you to say, you need to pick your career and this and that. It could take you 10 years after you leave school to actually work out what you want to do.
Yeah.
So just sit back and relax. Don't take it so serious. Do the best you can, but learn from any mistakes and worry about what does happen
Yeah.
after the fact.
I love what you said there about you may not have done the best thing, but that's in hindsight looking back at things. It's always so good looking back at things and going, oh, I should have done that, or I could have done that. But you know what? You did the best you could in that moment.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. That is really good.
100%. Yeah, so a couple of great points there, but we'll move on to the third and final point. So stop looking for happiness in other people. What does that mean to you?
I think you have to find fulfillment in yourself and what you do, and making a life that is fun. And find yourself. For me, I love going to acting classes and making up these stories and creating these worlds and things like that. That's really fun, and I've slowly kind of found my path with that. And I found personal style. I like dressing up in color, as I say, wearing a black t-shirt, but I do love color. And I've been out of school for a while now, but it's just about finding fulfillment in yourself and truly believing in yourself.
I like how you've said that, because I've written here, happiness is 100% an inside job. So you can't rely on others to fulfill your emotional needs. You just can't.
They're an added bonus, you could say.
Friends, and this is what I've always say about friends as well. They will come and go your whole life. They'll also give you terrible advice. People out there will give the worst advice that you can possibly imagine. So no one can understand your vision and your goal. So,
they're not in your brain.
And they're on their own path as well. And this took me a while to learn as well and to understand, is that you've got a lot of friends, which is great, take it on board with whatever comments they've got and the way that they think, but then don't let them influence what you're going to do and your own path. Because and if they're feeling really happy with what they're doing, great. But don't go seeking your happiness in what they're doing, because it'll leave you unfulfilled.
You don't need that validation.
No.
The validation should come within you, as long as you're doing what's sticking with your values, what makes you happy, is aligned with your true self. And friends, you're there to support them, and hopefully they're there to support you. And accepting your differences. You don't have to be the same, because that would be so boring.
Yeah.
That's why group dynamics are so interesting, because you put all these different types of personalities together, and that's what creates life. That's what creates experience.
And I like, exactly. And I think if you're lucky enough to have a good, close, knitted group of friends, I think that's great. But most of the time you're just talking bull crap with your friends, which is awesome fun. But there are a lot of people out there, like when I talk about, when we talk about stop looking for happiness in other people, a lot of other people might have become successful in a field that they find really fulfilling with what they're doing. But for yourself, you might look at that career path and go, yeah, there's heaps of money there, but you're chasing the money, for example. You're not chasing happiness.
Yeah.
Chase your own happiness in something that you love to do.
Yeah.
Money will come. Money always comes to things that you love. There are people out there that have literally come from nothing, and they've become garbage men, just picking up bins and things like that.
Yeah.
They've become the garbage collector, and then they've thought, how can I make my own business out of this? Instead of working for the garbage collecting company and the tips, they've gone and started their own business, and it's become $100 million company within a couple of years.
Yeah.
So because he did what he liked doing, chasing, junk, and he was selling stuff off the side of the road, this guy, he's gone and started his own company, and look what happens.
I love what you're saying there, is go where your passions lie. And I think really, truly valuing people, because I think every job is so important. We need people in all industries, all different kinds of people, because that's what makes the world run.
Yep.
If we were all doctors and lawyers, school teachers, nurses, that's not a large variety. We need creatives, and we need business people, we need sales rep, we need shop people.
We need everyone.
Everyone is so valued, and I think if you truly start to look at people in that way and being grateful for the people around you, the people that serve you in your community, and realize that what you do is like that too. People view you and your job that way too. And the way you treat people is so important. And, working in retail, I've often dealt with people who I find really difficult to deal with, but it's about not looking at them as a difficult person, but thinking, really, it's a bonus if someone's nice to me, because you don't know what's going on in people's lives. And if you so happen to have a really beautiful conversation with someone, just be in the moment and enjoy it. Don't be worried about, they said this to me and they said I was terrible at this. You know you're not terrible at that unless you are.
It's a good mentality to have, though.
Yeah.
It's a good mentality to have. So, I mean, for me personally, finding happiness, I love doing this podcast. I love being able to write this sort of content and think about this sort of stuff and to discuss it with our viewers. I know there's a lot of people out there that have been really enjoying what we've been talking about.
So I got the act of kindness for this week. In the act of kindness, we usually talk about how you can help other people and serve your community and just kind of random acts of kindness. But this week, I want you to look inward at yourself and treat yourself as you would treat a friend. And be kind to yourself. If you're having a tough day, don't be hard on yourself about it. Be kind to yourself. That's your act of kindness for this week, is to be kind to yourself and not be so hard on yourself. But say, well done, you did this, or you know what, you got up on time, you made it to work. I think it's the mentality of not a to-do list, but a get to do this.
That's a great
get to do list.
I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Great way to wrap up the podcast with that beautiful act of kindness. I like it. Please subscribe. Follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and we look forward to seeing you on the next podcast.
Bye.
Anyways, all right. We'll just edit that out then. Why can't you say that?
That just sounded so weird.